Hey everybody, Chris at A to B here. So last summer I reacquired another vehicle that I owned prior. My wife's uncle had owned it, and then I sold it back to him, and then he gifted it back to me. So we're going to do a will it start. This thing hasn't really been sitting that long. It's only been since October, November since it was ran, but it has been sitting outside and it has not been touched since that time. I didn't even take the battery out of it, haven't checked the tires, none of that stuff. So what vehicle could this possibly be? Should be one of the most recognizable silhouettes in American automotive design. So I covered this vehicle up right before an ice storm after Christmas, and it has not been uncovered since. So we're gonna uncover it this fine Sunday morning and see if it will start just as it is, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So there it is. It is a 1942 Ford GPW, functionally identical to a Willys MB from World War II. There are a few things that are different on a Ford GPW, but they're just kind of cosmetic and different tooling that Ford had. Functionally, all the parts interchange. This Jeep is not a Ford script tub, so it would be a late 42, as it would have a Ford script underneath where that aftermarket taillight is at, if it were an early 42. Seat has been replaced with a bench seat out of a van. Does have a swinging brake pedal setup in it that has been installed by somebody else, but this does have some interesting, it does pack a surprise. The fact that it all fits under the hood and the body is not cut up much other than the firewall, but It's not exactly stock anymore. It has been outfitted with a 1966 Ford 289 and a later T90 and Dana 18 from a later 50s Jeep. But the rest of the military drivetrain is intact. The front and rear axles are still the original Dana 25 front axle. And then the full floating model 24 axle, I think. Sorry about that jump there. I hit the wrong button. So anyway, my wife's uncle bought this Jeep in 1978, as I understand the story, in Colorado. I have a feeling that this, whoever built this Jeep originally, he did not. He bought it in mostly its current condition. I think whoever built this Jeep actually had a wrecked Ford car of some sort, probably a Mustang, judging by the size of the brake booster and master cylinder, Mustang or Falcon, because not only does it have the engine and bell housing, it has the swinging brake pedal set up, and the entire wiring harness on this Jeep has been replaced with a factory Ford harness taken from something. So it is pretty interesting. It is a testament to ingenuity from a time frame when there wasn't a kit. I can't show you on the video, really. Can't get the lighting right. The T90 transmission is direct mated to the Ford bell housing somehow. I don't know exactly how they've done that. I've never had it apart, and neither has her uncle. They built front engine mounts to actually suspend the engine from the cylinder heads to clear the bottom of it, because that's one issue with V8s and Jeeps, is the engine mounts. The other issue with V8s and Jeeps, while the small block Ford 289, 302, 260 is a good choice for a Jeep because they're narrow and the distributor's in the front, they were always made with swept back manifolds, which anybody that's owned an old Jeep knows that for a V8, the steering box is right in the way of a swept back exhaust manifold on the left side. So what these engineers, quote unquote, did, and it's just a testament to somebody's craftsmanship of ability, they took the exhaust manifolds and swapped them side by side to put the outlet toward the front, and then sealed the outlets off and actually brazed in, get to focus here, ends off of other exhaust manifolds to create their own center dump out the fender well exhaust manifolds, and then brought the pipes through this ugly hole out through the fender. Kind of interesting how it's done. They did what they could do for the time frame of the day, because when this thing was built, there was most likely no kit to do this. I know my wife's uncle bought it in Colorado. The Jeep, according to him, was supposedly from Utah prior to that. But I don't know anything of its history or who built it or where it came from. But it does have vintage worn brass knob lockout hubs on it, and also has a vintage worn Saturn overdrive. So we've got the main transmission, first, second, third, and reverse. We've got the front axle in and out, and then the high and low range on the transfer case, and then the overdrive. Back is direct drive, forward is overdrive. So we'll see if it will start here. I don't even know. As you can tell, when you saw the hood, I opened it. The battery's not been hooked up, but I haven't even checked to see if the battery's up. Probably ought to check and see if it's got any oil in it. This engine really don't care as long as it's some in it. Yep, there's oil in there. See if we can see any. There's a baffle on the radiator, so we can't really see. I can see it down in there, but I can't get the sunlight right. So I know in some of my previous videos I've said to never mess with to always replace radiators on old vehicles. This is still a World War II Jeep radiator. It's been inset into the front core support to provide room for the fan. Surprisingly enough, this engine does not get hot. I honestly don't know how. It can run all day long and the temperature won't hardly get over 180. So not that I've got a lot of road time on it right now, but I also dig these. I think these were backup lights off of some 50s car. These lenses are actually glass because somebody converted it to have turn signals and legal lighting. So anyway, it does have one issue that I'm going to have to sort out. It has had a recurring frame crack problem, which is sort of an issue that happens to Jeeps. So we're going to have to V that out and try to weld that back together. You can tell it's already been custom welded probably many times in its past. So we'll have to see what we can do with that. It's not all the way down to the bottom yet, but we'll have to do something with that. I do plan to try to leave the engine in it the way it is. Since this Jeep's been in the family since 1978, this engine's been in this Jeep longer than it was in its original car. So as far as I'm concerned, it's original now. So I'll put you back on the tripod and we'll see if we can get it start. It does not have a choke, so it's a little cantankerous. I have to get a choke working on. And there you go, all winter long, battery not even charged, didn't even have to get the jump box out, no choke, sits there and idles like it was run yesterday. Plenty of oil pressure. The alternator I'll kick in and charge if I raise the RPM. It's a little bit over 0 right now. And this thing has some of the best sound and dual exhaust I've ever heard. It does run a little rich. It's kind of, which helps with it not having a choke. I'd like to do some brake upgrades to it. It still has its itty bitty 9-inch brakes that Jeep used clear through the CJ series up until 71. So with the engine and then the heavier, wider tires on it, while it has, the brakes are as solid as they can be, but it doesn't stop worth a hoot. So I'm gonna try to keep it more of a vintage type stuff. So especially since it's got the V8 that's been installed in the way it has, I'd like to just do a 11.5-inch drum brake setup like people would have done to Jeeps in the 70s. So anyway, there it is. Hope you guys have a great Easter. Like and subscribe.